Bujuginawa, middle of the res road, and we're here with Twin Metals. And if you guys could introduce yourselves.
Sure. I'm Kathy Grawl. I'm the Director of Public Affairs and Communications at Twin Metals, Minnesota. I've been with the company about 4 years now. I'm actually originally from Iowa, but my family has really long-standing connections to northern Minnesota. So that's one of the reasons that I wanted to be involved in this project. I also care a lot about making sure that we're doing things right from an environmental perspective. My role before I started with Twin Metals was actually in public transportation, which is an important part of, ensuring we've got a greener future. I've been with the company for 4 years, and anything that falls under the communications marketing umbrella is what I do. Anytime the media calls or wants to come up and see the project, those are the types of things that I work on.
And my name is Dean DeBeltz. I'm the Vice President of External Affairs and Project Operations. I've been with the company for over 11 years now. Originally from Ely, so I'm a fourth generation Elyite. Went to school, got a degree in biology and chemistry, and just couldn't see myself living in the metro area. I wanted to get back up north, and so I found a spot working in mining. So I worked for an iron ore mine prior to joining Twin Metals. Started there to help build the safety program for the organization as we grew, and then got into project operations and to my current position. So it's a great place to live, and this is a really good project for our region.
Did you say VP?
Yes.
How do you, before we get into these questions, can you explain how you get to a VP level?
Well, in a smaller organization, obviously it's a little bit easier as you expand roles and you need people to fill spots. So you work your way into a position. And fortunately, our company is structured on the fact that you can grow from within. And so if you take on more responsibility and you try different things and apparently you do a decent job at it, you can get promoted within, and so it's just an exciting opportunity, and there's a lot of learning along the way. So it's been a fun 11 plus years.
Sounds like a learning experience there.
For sure.
Yeah, like
sure.
learning on the job, a lot
Yeah.
of in the job training skills.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's I'm actually from the range. I was born in Virginia, Minnesota,
Okay.
and I grew up on Lake Vermilion.
Oh.
The reservation up there. So I've seen quite a bit of mining going on, like just being up in the range around that area.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of your neighbors, I worked with in the past at my previous employer. I worked over at the North Shore Mine for 12 years prior to joining Twin Metals. So, so we're neighbors.
Do you see a lot of moose up there in Ely?
Not a lot anymore. Not a lot anymore.
Isabella
is the place to go.
that's the place to go.
If I'm at Burnside Lake is right in Ely there, right?
Just outside of Ely, yep.
Yeah.
So up the Echo Trail probably. Big moose area. There's a lot of moose, obviously, but Isabella is the place to go. Yeah.
Do you guys have a press kit then? Did you develop a press kit?
A press kit?
Yeah.
We really regularly speak to members of the media, both really hyper-local media organizations, the Star Tribune, NPR, and national and international publications too. So the New York Times has covered the project, the Wall Street Journal. Really, it's all over the place. There's a lot of attention right now on critical minerals and where we're going to supply them. And the Twin Metals project in particular has gained a lot of attention because of that. We regularly host members of the media on site and give them tours and speak to them and provide updates, which I really enjoy because it's a good learning experience for both of us. Both media members and us on the team to kind of understand, where they see the trends and the coverage around this going, but also, to see kind of the light bulbs go off with reporters who maybe don't have as much of a science background, or they haven't been exposed to mining as much, when they actually see, the potential, and actually with our project, the small footprint that it's really going to have, I think is a really, really cool opportunity for us every time we have a reporter on site.
Then how do you study the trends in coverage? Because that's what stood out to me when you were talking there. And I like studying trends. I like everything on social media. I study everything that's like popular. If it's social media, if it's news, whatever catches my eye. So studying trends, like how do you guys do that with Twin Metals?
That's a really good question. We keep track of media coverage of not just Twin Metals, but mining in general, and then the broader issues around mining on a daily basis. So we're always kind of digging through all the different media coverage, whether it's on, why critical minerals are needed for our national security, for our clean energy transition, for whatever the purpose is. And we really compile those on a regular basis to see how mining is being talked about. And what's been really interesting to me in the past 4 years since I worked on the Twin Metals project is there's been a major shift in how people are really talking about mining, especially in the media. So 3-4 years ago when I started this role, we really saw that the conversation and the arguments around mining were kind of pitting the economic job opportunities around mining and just talking about that as the sole benefit versus the potential environmental impacts. And so that was kind of where the conversation ended with mining and a lot of the media coverage that we saw 3-4 years ago. But that has really shifted as we've seen our state and our national leaders focus on, setting these really ambitious goals around transitioning to a cleaner economy, to cleaner energy sources, to really fighting climate change. We've seen the coverage shift in talking about the importance of critical minerals and where we're supplying them from. That's really been reflected overall in the shift, and you can track that on not just in the media coverage, but in conversations that are happening on social media, among our elected officials, lots of different ways.
What is the status today of the Twin Metals project?
Currently we do have a federal lawsuit. We're trying to regain our federal leases that we worked really hard on over a number of years to really understand and study those leases. And they're part of our project, which we submitted a mine plan of operations to both state and federal agencies to understand what we were proposing so we could get into environmental review. Those leases were canceled by the current administration, and since that time, our mine plan of operations really has been taken off of the out of review, basically. So, unfortunately, we're in a challenging situation with respect to that mine plan of operations and the status of those leases. However, as an organization, we feel we have a strong argument to regain those leases and continue. So we're working on that currently. But kind of the trickle down, a lot of the good science that goes into supporting the claims that we make about our project, the baseline studies that support the work that we've done, unfortunately, those currently are on pause until we get through this stretch. So,
And then when you say submit your federal documents for that, when you do something like that, I suppose it's like a grant application, but how many documents are we talking? Like when you're submitting it to a number of agencies, how many agencies is that? And then how big are those documents? How many pages? What's in them?
Yeah, so when we submitted our mine plan in 2019, that was really the culmination of an entire decade of work, of community engagement work, of environmental assessment, the drilling and the geological studies, the hydrogeo studies. It was a full decade of work before we felt we were ready to submit a plan that was right for the community, right for the environment, right for the area that we were going to be operating in. So that's a full decade of work until you actually turn in your documents to the state and federal agencies. And so the two primary agencies that we submitted them to would have been on the state side, the DNR, and then at the federal level, the BLM. And so because we've got a mix of state, private, and federal mineral interests, the environmental review track, it was kind of a dual track, and it's hundreds and hundreds of pages of documents and scientific data to back up, the mine plan itself.
And what is BLM?
The Bureau of Land Management.
So is there a time frame that something has to happen within a certain time frame for the what you were just talking about the environmental plan and stuff like that, like all these plans that you have in place? Is there like a time frame that they got to make a decision to go forward? Or
currently there isn't requirements as far as standards as how long it can take. Now there's anticipated timelines that you would expect to go through environmental review. However, sometimes that can be circumvented by groups that might, or things that happen along the way. The process in and of itself really is very robust, and it's designed to have multiple inputs where the public looks at your plan, and this it's a totally public, transparent way to look at the permitting system as a whole. And there's times when you have public hearings on different aspects of that plan as it goes through the process. But I mean, typically, shortest time frame, could be 3 years. Longest time frame could be a lot longer than that. We submitted our plan, quite frankly, and I think it was 31 months that passed, and we saw zero progress on that plan within the agency. So, permitting reform for us is a really big topic of conversation that we'd like to have, because, I'll go back to the fact that Kathy mentioned the science and these multiple pages. I believe our submittal was like 436 pages, and that represents $550 million of investment to study the project over time. We have a core storage facility on our campus at our office in Ely that houses 1.5 million feet of core, and that's the science. That's how do you understand, what the deposit is, where it lies, and the scientists that we work with really know that deposit. They know the geology. We've done a robust hydrogeologic study of the region, so we can answer a lot of questions that'll come up in environmental review.
Okay. How does Twin Metals differ from other underground mines?
Each mine location, each area, I should start with the geologic deposit, is different, right? There's no two places that are exactly the same. And so, we took that into account with the design of our mine. And for our underground deposit, 85% of our mining would happen below 1,500 feet below surface. So ours is a relatively deep deposit in our region. And it's really a thick area that runs through, and it actually dips down, and so we know exactly where that deposit lies. And so it's, from a modern perspective, there's minimal surface disturbance with respect to our mine. And, 21st century mining, there's a lot of enhancements underground that have been put into place since, Minnesota's seen mining. I think the last underground mine in the state of Minnesota closed in 1967, and that was in Ely. So there's been huge changes, huge advancements since that.
Well, and one of the reasons I have always wanted to work on this project was because of the technological advances. I mean, we're going to be producing 20,000 tons of ore per day, and we're getting to a point where we're confident that we're going to be a net zero emissions operation by the time we're operational, which is it's pretty phenomenal when you think about it in the transition of the mining industry that we're able to accomplish that. So, we announced pretty recently that we'd be switching our fleet to all electric, which is pretty cool. And it's actually ideally suited for underground mining because you don't have the longer distances when you're working in that underground environment. It also creates a lot of safety benefits and a nicer, quieter environment for workers underground. So because of that, incorporating the electric fleet and utilizing renewable energy and future plans to implement carbon sequestration on site, we're confident we're going to be a net zero operation, which I just think is pretty mind-blowing for a major, mining operation.
Can we back up one question? Yeah. So you had said 31 months. I mean, 31 months, right? Yeah. There's nothing, no progress. So, and we had talked about this before we had officially came on. And so we got 31 months. What does that do for the business? How do you guys keep going when there's 31 months of nothing happening? So what do you have to do? Talk to the stakeholders, talk to anyone that owns any portion of the company. How does that work?
Yeah, so our parent company is Antofagasta Minerals. It's a Chilean mining company, and they understand that the process takes time. It's an iterative process, and that they have a long view on this. They want to make sure that the work that we're doing is the right work. So in that time, we didn't just sit and wait for something else to happen. I mean, we were collecting baseline data throughout that entire process to enhance our models to make sure that, we knew what baseline conditions were to help support the overall model. So, that's when we submitted a plan to the agencies, and then the agencies, take that plan and they use contractors to help them sort through that. And the other thing that I'll say is keep in mind that we have to help fund those contractors to look at that process directed by the agencies. And so, again, we recognize that this is a long range thing and there's a process involved, but we have to support that process however we can.
So you take 31 months, nothing's happening, and we talked about this before we went on. So for hiring, for looking at people that want to work for your company, how does that look right now?
We sure wish we were hiring right now. Unfortunately, because we're on a bit of a pause right now because of the recent actions, we were waiting for the litigation to resolve. We're really confident that we're going to get our federal mineral leases back. At that time, we would re-enter the environmental review process. But it's really challenging, and our project, once it's operational, will employ 750 people full-time and create another 1,500 spin-off jobs. And that's in an area, Ely and Babbitt, where, job creation is desperately needed. We can employ about half of the population in Ely and Babbitt with our project alone. I mean, it's just astounding. And construction of the project would be something like 3 million labor hours. And so it's a really incredible, it's a transformational opportunity for Northeast Minnesota. And that's what drives us, I think, every day to keep working on this project and keep it moving forward. But it is frustrating and it's hard. It's hard when, your project essentially becomes a political football to continue to make investment decisions, for sure, in Minnesota. And we're not the only mining company in the country that's been facing these obstacles. There's certainly been other examples of other mines that have faced similar challenges.
And then when you get operational, so when you get to that point, you get operational, 750 people that you're looking for. How does that go? What are you actually going to be looking for 750 people to fill those spots?
Well, interestingly enough, our favorite tour of the year are our third graders. Our local third graders come through. And if you think about the process to get through permitting, I mentioned some timeline, but those are the types of people that we want to start talking to so that they can get excited about this project, so they can understand and learn what's out there. So hopefully that they can stay in our region, stay in our area, and make a good living, to support a family, to keep folks in our region, to fill our schools, fill our storefronts. Our population's been on a constant decline. I mean, it looks really good in the summertime when we have a lot of tourists, and we're thankful that those folks come and help support the economy. But it's really a short period of time. It's a short window of time, and generationally, if you look at, and this is an exact example. My class was half the size of my father's class in high school. And I've got two daughters, one's in 9th and one's in 10th grade, and their classes are half the size of mine. So each generation, that the population within the school is cut in half. And so to answer your question, we hear from different industry how hard it is to staff up. And so we'll have that challenge when we get to that point. But, we're targeting young school-age children to let them know what could potentially be out there in front of them. And, hopefully there'll be an opportunity for that in the future.
I wanted to ask a question here, like that hiring process and stuff like that. Say when it does become available, it's like, where would people apply? People that are even brand new to the mining work, or don't have no background on the mining industry or anything like that, but they want to work, and say they got some training, like just not much. They got maybe like the MSHA, or maybe some class time or something like that. Where would they apply? And is there going to be any jobs created for those people new to the mining industry?
I can take that question, and it's very interesting because that's exactly where I started in mining. I fortunately when I started in mining, I started as during college, because my father worked at the mine. I was able to get a summer student job to do labor at the mine. But when I started at the mine, the mines do a really nice job of training people in place. So you mentioned MSHA, mine safety and health training. Yep. That's the important start, because that's where it exposes individuals to the hazards associated with mining. But it also it teaches people how to work safely as you work in a mine. And then it's up to like Twin Metals as an organization, as we hire people, to train them for various aspects of what we need with respect to what positions are there. So mining has done a really good job of making sure that you train people up to get them to a point where they need to be, and that's really important for us as well. We've started a small internship program in the past where we brought college students in to help us with various aspects, whether it be water sampling or acoustic televiewing downhole of our exploration boreholes, which just is data that we're collecting, and it teaches them a new skill, and it's beneficial to us because we get to train them, and hopefully in the future they'll say, hey, that was a really good experience and I want to do that again. Those are paid internships, and we've had nothing but really good reviews of those.
What precautions do you take for water degradation on the boundary waters?
Ooh, an environmental question. Here we go. We're
Yeah,
putting her on the
no,
spot.
This is a really good question. This is really important to us too. So I'll let.
Yeah, so we've been, thinking about that for a really long time and designing our project to account for that. And we actually have a really unique geological formation that allows for us to, in the process of uncovering the ore from underground and then turning it into a concentrate product, we can actually remove all of the essentially minerals that we're looking for and put those into the concentrates. So we'll produce a copper concentrate, a nickel and cobalt concentrate, and then a platinum group metals concentrate. And so all of those materials are actually put in containers and shipped off site. And so what you're left with are essentially the main concern for a copper nickel mining operation would be the potential for acid rock drainage. And that could come from either waste rock that's not stored properly or from the tailings that are left over after you turn your ore into that mineral concentrate product. So we've actually got a really unique geology, and that we can pull all of those materials out and put them into the concentrate. And then because we're an underground mine, we actually won't have any of that waste rock on surface. We're able to store that underground. And then we've done extensive testing on our tailings that show that they won't actually they won't actually be at the level to produce any acid rock drainage, and the DNR has confirmed this independently. They've done the same kind of testing on our same mineral deposit, the Duluth Complex geological deposit, that confirms that there just won't be the content there to produce the acid rock drainage. And so it's a common misperception about our project, and those that are opposed to mining paint kind of this picture of, destruction from projects like ours. And it's not even possible because of the way that we're going to be mining and shipping those materials off site. And then also just because our tailings will essentially be benign. They just won't be able to produce that acid rock drainage that people are concerned about. So we've been thinking about those protective measures for a really long time. We're also not discharging any of our process water or any of the water that comes into contact with our whole process. And so it's a really unique operation in that way. And it's something that we really like to talk about because it is, it's something that people hear and, make kind of generalizations about the Twin Metals project, but it's just misinformation is what it is.
And then how does that affect? I suppose that changes the relationship, and working with tribes, because tribes have a direct say over boundary waters and 1854 treaty. So how does that work? How do you build a relationship with the tribe when the stance is probably not for mining?
Yeah, so we've tried to do a lot of work in building our relationships, especially with the Bois Forte tribe. We were able to attend the cultural sensitivity training that the Bois Forte puts on with the state, and so for us that was very beneficial, and we meet regularly with the tribal council to give them updates on the project. And as we have new news, we try to reach out as much as we can. The other thing, through this whole exploration phase and the phase that we've been developing the project over time, we've had surveyors go out and do archaeological surveys. If there's any areas where potential areas that we may find are historical areas, we'll bring the tribal elders out to take a look at those. So really for us right now with where we're at, it's building that relationship of trust so that, members of the Bois Forte band, which is closest to us, understand that we want to do the right thing. We want them to work with us and help guide us in that. so that we can bring the right project to fruition here.
And with the Boys Fort Band, working so close with them, meeting with them on a regular basis, have they taken you up on have you guys offered the tours that you do with the school age kids and anyone in general?
Yeah, in fact, we've met both. We've met at Net Lake. We've met over at Fortune Bay. We've met at our office. So we try to do that so we can just have open conversations and discussions, and we can talk about concerns. We can talk about hopefully how we're addressing some of those concerns. But again, we're really trying to build that relationship and figure out how we can better support the tribes, support the concerns that are out there, and work with them to make sure that we're doing the right things.
And then does that equate to adding tribal liaison positions?
That's something that we would like to do in the future. We've had some, we've worked with the Tribal Historic Preservation Officer to walk along on some of the surveys that we've had. But I think, again, once we get back into the process, it would be really good to have a tribal liaison lead with us to really help us understand, and so it's a really important relationship for us.
So you guys are already thinking that that's a direction that you'll be going.
That's
That's
again
a possible direction.
it's a possible direction that we could go to better help inform and work collaboratively.
Yeah, so that like bringing the tribal stuff into it and stuff like that. How many jobs is Twin Metals and the tribe? Is there any kind of agreement there on tribal opportunities for people from the different tribes of the Minnesota Chippewa tribe, or is there like an employment rate that you plan to target?
I think right now it's too early to target that, but what we want to do is better work, with the tribal leaders to determine, how does that workforce development look? How can they help support that? Because again, in the metro area, 750 jobs probably doesn't turn any dials for anyone, but up north it does, and so we're going to need help, and so we need to help to find that help, and again the working with the tribes is really important for us.
And we've obviously seen some major companies like Enbridge do some really good work in that space, and so we hope to kind of model a little bit from that, but also fine tune what we need to based on our operation and based on what the tribes closest to us are really looking for. So that we've seen some good work happening, and we hope to kind of model that. But it's going to have to it's still probably 8-10 years down the road for us until we're going to be hiring that many people, but it's the goal.
And then are you building the onboarding process then right now? If you're looking at 8-10 years, when do you start building the onboarding?
So that's a really good question, because we will have to work with consultants to help us with that. We've done some workforce development type things within the colleges and things like that in the past, just to really understand where that is. But Kathy mentioned it. We expect a 3-year construction period, and we've signed a project labor agreement for union construction of our facility. So we have hopefully a little bit of a cushion during that construction period, where we would bring someone skilled in underground mining in to help us develop that workforce and determine where our needs are most. But very futuristic. I wish I didn't have to say we had a bit of a runway until we get to that point, but we've got a bit of a ways to go. But it's the concepts we're thinking about and how are we going to tackle this in the future is important.
So Dean ain't gonna lace his boots up and go down there in the mines?
I'll go down there. Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I'm waiting for.
Okay. I heard you talk about being a laborer at one point. That's actually what I am, so that's why I had to throw that out there. How many union jobs do you think will be created? Like some people, you hire these companies, these different companies, and they hire their own laborers. Are you planning on being a pathway to people that want to be union?
Well, I think that's something that the unions have to vote on and determine in the future. We do have the project labor agreement for the construction of the mine, but beyond that, I think that would be a decision by the different unions that will be involved.
Okay, yeah, because I know that's a lot of people right now that are trying to actually get into the union. They need to be sponsored by companies. So it's like a lot of companies ain't taking anyone outside the union. So it's like, how do you create these union jobs if people can't get sponsorships? And that's just a entry, just a beginning entry to get your foot in the door. And then once you're in the door, you get to be, fill out the paperwork for union. So I was wondering, if Twin Metals is trying to, put any opportunities like that out there for the community up there. I mean, you say the 750 jobs and or 1,500
Spinoff.
spin-off jobs.
Yeah, and again, getting back to the project labor agreement that we signed for construction, that was really important to us because that's skilled labor, and we think that's a stepping stone for what's next to come, because the underground mine requires heavily skilled labor in all different aspects. And so Minnesota doesn't have that experience, well, at least, since the 60s when underground mines closed. But yeah, it's for sure, it's an important aspect of the operation moving forward.
We've got a lot of people to hire, and so we're open to all possibilities when it comes to what that process looks like, for sure.
Yeah.
And then for people to move up there, say you can't find 750 people and then the 1,500 additional workers, how do you expect for people to apply, get hired, and move up there? Are you going to help with the transition?
Yeah, again, that's pretty futuristic for us, but it will be a challenge. As you know, whatever happened after COVID, there's no housing anywhere. Childcare is a challenge. All of these things that help, basic community needs that we have, a region struggles with, and it's a bigger conversation than just Twin Metals. I happen to sit on as president of the United Way of Northeast Minnesota, and those are challenges we hear from all of the communities within our region, and elder care, all of those things that make up healthy communities we struggle with. And so industries like ours can help bolster that and help figure out solutions for that, but we don't have a specific plan in place at this point in time with housing. But one thing I will say about our workforce and the mining workforce in general, people will travel distances to get to work, and they'll travel to get to the right places. What we want to offer is the right place for people to work, to want to come to work, and to want to be part of a good, safe culture in mining. And hopefully that'll be the draw for people to come to the Twin Metals project.
Got any more questions?
I really don't. I think they explained it pretty well. And it's, I can't thank you guys enough for making it out. And I really enjoy listening to you. And it's not only just listening and learning, it's educating the surrounding communities and making people aware of opportunities that might be coming up. And, now's the time to get that training done. I mean, that's what I think, and that's just the way I look at it, being a union laborer. It's like, I want to get some trainings done now. Yeah. Dean put that in the air for me. You need to be trained and you need to be skilled. So I was like, I'm gonna be skilled and I'm gonna be from Minnesota.
Well, I just want to say, we want to say thank you for being open and having the conversation, because a lot of times we're faced with, just people don't want to talk about it, or it's something that's challenging, and we've been at this for a long time. We've been an important part of the community, and we see that future as a important part of the community going forward. So it's important to have the conversations. It's important to get the questions, and it's important to have an honest discussion about what it is we're really trying to do. And so we appreciate you guys having us here to talk about that.
I really like that, like how you brought the tribal stuff into it, and being able to reach out to the surrounding community. I think that's a very, very honest thing to do, and you do that with integrity, and you just, you're very inviting about what you're doing, and you're very thorough.
You should come up and take a tour. We're always open to visitors, so if you're up,
you said there's nowhere to stay. I'm just kidding.
Fortune Bay.
yeah, I'm actually from Boysport, so yeah, I know where it's at. But yeah, I toured the Sedan mines before, so and those haven't been open forever.
Yeah.
But I would really enjoy that. I think Charlie would too. We'll have to go to Duluth Airport and fly up there sometime.
I'll go as long as Morgan and Lou and Ricky goes.
Yeah, our whole podcast team is going.
Kathy, is there anything you want to say before we jump off?
I really appreciate the opportunity, especially that you're willing to just kind of learn a little bit more about the project. And I know it's, it's a little frustrating that the opportunities are so far in the future, but we certainly hope to come back on the podcast when we're getting ready to, maybe start up that internship program again, or start, hiring again in the future. So yeah, just really appreciate the thoughtful questions.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. Yep. And that's what I love about these major companies is the pathways of opportunity that you can put out there, and
right.
And I think that's important to every community. And I really want to thank you guys both for making it in, Kathy and Dean and Charles. Thanks for coming in, Charles.
You guys, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.